Not quite. Good to go. All right. We're back in open session. I'll entertain a motion to accept the personnel report presented in executive closed session. Motion by Ms. Griffin.
Second
Second by Ms. Fee. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. All right, we'll now move into item 5A, the CTE Spotlight. Ms. Ava Williams and Mr. Chris Hicks.
All right, board members, I appreciate you allowing us to be here tonight. I'm here to share a lot of great news on behalf of our ag program and FFA chapter. And so have a lot of our FFA members here. And so we wish we could spotlight all of them. Our chapter was probably the largest it's ever been last year. I handed you a handout that gives you some of the highlights of the past year. We had over 200 members, 222, I think was our final number. And so we had a really good year. We became one of the largest chapters in the Southeast region, 5th overall, and then had a lot of really good things. And so I'm going to recognize just a few of the kids that are here, and I'll just get them to stand as I call on them. But first, Madison Aloya. Madison Aloya just graduated, class of 2022, and she's at NC State now. But Madison was our first ever state officer candidate. So she was with a slate of about 12 others that ran for state FFA office. So that was a big step for Jones County to be able to send somebody for that. Madison also was 3rd place in the state's Diversified Livestock Production Proficiency Award. So that recognized her for her internship that she had at the farm on Great Creek over in Cove City. So she did a lot with beef cattle and sheep and hogs, and so she was recognized for that. So they had over 20-some applicants, and she got 3rd place overall. So she was recognized for that. So we appreciate Madison. Our first ever again for Jones County, we had a state winning team, and that was in exploring biotechnology, and that was Ms. Murphy trained that team. And so that was a middle school event. And so if I'm not mistaken, it was the first time we'd ever taken middle schoolers to a state competition like that. And so we have 3 young ladies with us tonight, and that's Kylie Barr, Shaylin Clark, and Emily Arriaga. And so they made up the team. Kylie's actually here on her birthday to be recognized. But anyway, so they competed against several other teams across the state, and they got a state winning plaque for getting 1st overall. You want to hold that up there? So Jones County is very proud of that. And so they were middle schools. They're freshmen now, except for Shaylin. Still got another year in middle school, so we're excited for what they're going to do. And I will say that not only did they win 1st in the state, but they were the only team. They had one. It's a 4-person event, and they entered the competition with 3. And so they were 1 man short. They all 3 received perfect scores in the competition. And so they beat out other teams that had full 4 participants. So we're very proud of them for that, ladies. All right, and then we have our tool identification team. We took several teams to the state FFA convention in June in Raleigh, and our tool identification team came back and they were top 10 in the state. They got 10th place, and so this was the first time that we had taken kids in many years due to a pandemic and other reasons, but we wanted to recognize them. Mary Grace Murphy, Ben Davis, Diesel Pickett, and Eric Sanchez could not be here tonight, but that was our tool identification team. So out of 65 teams, they placed 10th, so we felt pretty good about that. And then, thank you guys. The only other thing I really want to mention to you guys, Brianna Jackson could not be here tonight. She's sick, but we have one of our officers that received a full scholarship to the Washington Leadership Conference. And so she was able to attend that this summer. And so she interviewed, and they selected 10 students from North Carolina. And so they paid for her. It's about a $2,000 cost to go and represent North Carolina in Washington, D.C. And so she did all the big historical stuff, met with senators, some congressmen. So that was very big for her to be able to share her story about FFA and ag ed. So But that's it. There's some other details you can read on the handout, but again, we appreciate you allowing us to be here tonight to spotlight these FFA members. You guys got any questions?
Very proud. Very
Proud.
proud.
Great evening, everyone. My name is Ava Williams, and I am the technology teacher at Jones Senior High School, and I'm very proud to be here this evening with a few of our students. I first want to start off by thanking you all for hanging in there with us this summer. It was a long road to get our students to Dallas, Texas to compete nationally. But some of you all, most of you all, in some sort of way, gave your time, your energy, your effort, your monetary gifts to us to get us there. So I really, really appreciate your effort. I am so proud that this team, we're small. I tell them all the time, we're small, but we're mighty. They started off in middle school. And my biggest team now is going to be high school. So I had to be a TSA advisor, and that's Technology Student Association advisor over 2 chapters here at Jones Senior Middle and High School. That's the way they divide them up during competition. So I could not leave my babies out. So we have a middle and high school. The middle school they just blew us away. They went to Cary High School, and that is in Cary, North Carolina, and they ranked top for coding and technology. And most of you all know that coding is the future. Technology has just, in so many different areas you can go in to technology. And these boys came along and said, we want to code. So I was like, okay, some of them have been coding since they were 6. Some of them have been coding and they just got in and they just took it and they like it. So I just wanted, a lot of them are not here. I only have 2 that are here with me, and I just want to spotlight them. The first one is Christopher Holly. He was a middle schooler and he went with us to Dallas, Texas. And I want him to just briefly give his experience on it because I think he had a wonderful time. So Christopher, if you would come up, and you don't have to say anything long, but just let them know what your experience was.
Okay, so my experience in Dallas, Texas was generally amazing. Everyone was mostly kind, and it was a lot of fun competing with the other teams from different states across the country.
What did you do about those pens? Exchanging of pens.
Oh yeah, there was this really popular thing. There were pins, from all 50 states and a couple from Germany actually. And people were trading them based on rarity values. So for the first couple days, North Carolina was actually one of the more rare pins because there was only a couple people from this state. But the rarest was Germany. It's Germany.
Thank you very much. But he had a very good time exchanging other pens, and it was just a way for them to really get to know one another and have friends so that they could have long life friends to continue to do what they do. So I was very, very proud of him. So they ranked, when they called them to the stage, we were shocked, because when they called them, they were 9th. And we were like, oh my God, they won. We had no idea because they were fussing at each other. So we had no idea. But when they sent it to me, their medal, and the guy that has the medal is not here, they were ranked 4th in the nation. So Jones Senior High School is on the map, y'all, for technology, and I am just so proud of them. So now those middle schoolers are now high schoolers, so I can't wait to see what they're gonna do this year. And my other spotlight young lady here, she's a senior, okay? And when I say she has stepped up in Technology Student Association, and she is a born leader. So I'm elated to introduce to you this young lady. I'm gonna let you tell about yourself and how you feel about TSA.
Hi, My name is Lily Bradford. I've been in TSA. This will be my second year, and I pretty much just found a family in TSA. That's why I stayed with it for so long. I normally hyperfixate on different things, but I found a sort of comfort in the TSA club as a whole. And I just kind of naturally took on a more leader type role with that, like watching over the middle schoolers. Despite being a junior, I was always grouped with them. And I kind of just looked over them and watched over them. And I competed, or I attempted to compete in TSA Bowl. And I assisted one of the middle schoolers in writing in a storybook competition. And I can't really think of anything else.
It's okay, you're nervous. It's okay, but overall, she's a leader, you all. And I look forward to her leading the pack this year. I have turned over everything to her because I will be the facilitator this year and she will be the true leader. So thank you so much, and I appreciate you all and your time.
Yeah, I broke into the classroom to get my uniform
She
today,
did.
so.
That was happy.
Very good. Very proud.
All right, we'll move into item 5B, the first 10 days of school and testing results.
Good evening. It's a tough act to follow, isn't it? So I'm going to go through with y'all the first 10 days of our enrollment in the school system, and then also our last year 21-22 accountability. This is as of today, which is our 10th day, and you can see our end of year numbers on the left column, each school, and then our district totals at the bottom. And you can see those numbers have increased district-wide by about 50 students so far. So we're thrilled that students are coming back to our schools, and we welcome them and can't wait to see how many more are going to come into this. So that's where we are as of today. Any questions about the enrollment?
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am. And I got a few reasons for asking.
Okay.
Do you hear, are people coming back or is it new?
Well, we've had a lot, well, both. So we've had some kindergarten, obviously, and some lower grade kids coming in for the first time. We've also had quite a few in the 6-12 range coming either back to us or I guess it could have moved here as well. But the majority of the increase, as you can see, is at the high school, the 6-12 range, which makes sense as about 75% of our, or 60 for maybe of our total student populations in that building. So, anything else? All right, that's the good news. I'm just kidding, there's more good news. Okay, so this slide is just going to talk briefly. There's a link if you want, it's electronic, gives an accountability framework. During the state board meeting, when they shared this data, they were very clear that we need to be reminded that even though we were in school the entire 21-22 school year, we are still looking through the lens of COVID based on the impact that the students have had to deal with for us from Florence and to COVID. So the last year we even had comparable data was in 18-19, but even then it's kind of skewed because 2018-19 was considered a normal school year, whereas 21-22 is still again coming off the back end of COVID. So they really discourage us making any comparisons, but we'll look at some data nonetheless. The number of schools and districts identified as low performing across the state has increased significantly. I know that Dr. Thigpen has already shared some data with y'all about that, but our numbers for those schools have increased to 881, I believe it was, is 440 something in 2018-19, the last time these designations were made. So near about doubled. And the districts went from 8 to 29. So we have 29 districts that are identified as low performing. So I just want to be real clear that the state board was very, very, very adamant that we do not need to be identifying our schools as low performing because the schools themselves are not low performing, they're designated by state designation as low performing based on a calculation that puts 80% of the weight in performance data. 20% on growth, 80% on performance, and anybody can tell you that the performance numbers have gone down since the students were not in school for almost 2 years. So just want to be mindful that we are not calling them low performing schools, that they are just been designated as such, and we will go through whatever, we'll get more information from the state on what they were going to require from us for our schools as we move forward into the next few weeks. Okay, so this is an overview of what our school data looks like for 21-22. School performance grades, their grade level proficiency, and grade level proficiency, as a reminder, is achievement levels 3, 4, or 5 on the state assessment. We focus on grade level proficiency because that's what drives the school performance grade. So that's why you see these numbers here, and you'll see the grade statuses as well as any designations applied to our schools. Because more than 50% of our schools are low performing, our district is also considered a low performing district. And that's a caveat of having small numbers. You know, 3 out of our 5 schools were low performing, making us a low performing district as well, which means that we will also be submitting plans moving forward with the state. Okay, so this is comfort, and I just left some of the trend data on there for you to see, even though we're not supposed to make any comparisons, but just so you can kind of see where we were in 2018-19. We did have some data reported last school year, but we did not report school performance grades or some of the designations at the high school either. So again, I would focus on the GLP, the grade level proficiency columns, as that's what's driving that school performance grade that's in the top left up there. So this is comfort, and they met, and they have a school performance grade of C, and they have no designations. They are not considered low performing. Pollocksville, they are a C also. Again, they met growth, and they are not considered low performing either. Maysville is scored a D. They met growth, but they are a low performing school for 2022. Trenton scored an F, and they are a low performing school. They met growth as well. And Jones Senior did not meet growth, scored a D, and therefore low performing. Now, these are some other indicators that the state reports out for Jones Senior High School. Their 4-year cohort grad rate across the years, going back to 2017-18. Math course rigor, that's if a student that graduated has a score in Math 3, NC Math 3 course. We'd expect that number to be high because it's a graduation requirement. The ones that would ding us on that possibly are exceptional needs students that are on a different coursework. ACT is reported out by the state for ACT and work keys separately, but for the accountability model, which plugs into their school performance grade, they combine those 2 measures together. Now this year it was the same for 40%, but you can see some of the previous years that kind of helps them to be able to combine the 2. So I brought up some district comparisons of some of the regions surrounding us, including the state of North Carolina. They're 51.4%, then Jones is 45.2%, and then it can go down Lenore, 39.6%, Pamlico, and so on.
Cool.
High school comparisons is kind of small, probably easier for you to read it on the slide maybe. Again, we try to look at high schools that are in our region that might be comparable to us and how they scored in last school year. And the same with elementary. So the state was not surprised to see the number of low performing schools, but I think some districts were surprised. And so, I look forward to, we've already made, y'all are aware, there's already been some changes at some of those schools already to help with improvement moving forward. And we will do whatever is required for the state and the school performance program and plans for them. Any questions about the data?
I got one question. The high school comparisons. And I was looking at East Superman. let's see. Jones Senior was 44.6, and East Duplin was 44.8. It was like 0.2 of a point, and that's all. That cuts it. How hard is it to do the 0.2 difference? One's a C and one's a D. You see what I'm asking?
Yes, so a C is 55 to 69 and a D is 40 to 54. Is that what you're asking me?
No,
No?
look at your GLP percentage.
I was looking for
44.6,
the deal,
Which page you on?
number 6.
High school comparison.
the high school compared to the blue.
Oh, right. That's the total number of grade, of how many scores that they got as a 3, 4, or 5 at East Duplin versus how many Jones Senior got as a 3, 4, or 5. They're taking the same test that we take.
Okay, what's the difference in the D and the C?
So the D and the C is gonna take that performance, that grade level proficiency of 44.6, and then also look at the growth and what their growth indicator and index is. So the index
If the
is gonna
growth
be-
index was lower,
Ours, we did not, I don't know, see if they met.
it was 0.2 difference, and when one was D and the C, I just wondered what caused the difference.
Right, so it's 80%, it's hard to know, but what their actual growth score is, to meet growth, you have to be between a -2 and a +2 on the EBOS scale, and both of them did not meet, so they're somewhere below a -2, but where they are is gonna indicate what their growth index is, so it could be that our growth index was slightly lower than theirs, and that made us just fall. They were very close, I mean, Jones Senior was within a couple points of the NSC, but
We had
Give
2
next year.
schools within a point or two of.
Hollisville was in a couple of points, Trenton Elementary was in a couple of points, and Jones Senior was in a couple of points of the next grade level up for them,
The policy was almost a D.
almost a B. Yeah. So,
We
And
did be,
we're probably one of the smallest schools,
yeah.
and so, the same number of kids, in other words,
The
2 or 3
smaller yard,
students
Makes a difference.
makes
for
a
us.
difference in making a D or on a EO.
Oh, yes,
Well, that's the way it's
Yeah,
been, and it's the same way with graduation
it
rate.
is. the same.
Yeah,
We had one
it
kid
makes a
not
difference.
graduate, and it's like 2 or 3%
Yeah.
for every kid.
And then all the students have to be tested. It doesn't matter.
And I will say, our district is very good at testing all students. It's mandated we test 95%. If we don't, they will flip scores.
Yeah.
So we're very good at testing 95%. I don't know other districts, if they may take that ding. I don't know what they do, but I know that we do test every single child. Ours were well above 95% last year.
We
And
have,
for anytime you do percentages, when we're small numbers like that, it kind of skews the data a little bit.
the EC kids are figured in this too. is that
Yeah.
correct? Do we have a percentage of how many EC kids we have per district?
I do not.
Compare, but you see what I mean, there's a big difference if we got a high number of EC kids
I don't
on
know the
that.
percentages.
It's
I mean,
probably,
the whole
when you look
place
at
is-
percentage, it might be close because it might be larger numbers somewhere else, but when you look at percentages, it's probably,
I think they had significant caseloads. I can't tell you, I can ask Ms. Bryan what the percentage of EC status of students are in our district, but I'm not sure. But yes, we do test all of them as well.
There was a whole lot across the state, because I was in the legislative meeting Friday, and it was a whole bunch of stuff about how the state's doing all the scoring and all that. I mean, all the districts all over are upset about.
Yeah, there's a lot of buzz about the school performance grade in general, and I think the number of schools that were identified this school year with it nearly doubling, I think that they're starting to say, okay, maybe this 80-20 split needs to be looked at again.
Are we okay with it? Is that what I'm hearing?
We are, no, we're okay.
Y'all satisfied with it?
No,
No,
we're not
no,
satisfied,
no,
okay.
but we're okay. We know that there's a plan that has to be made, and I would say that we have already made some strides moving forward, knowing that this could possibly be a difficult year. So there's been some steps already put in place, and there will be more steps put into place for each of the schools to help them and to support them. I don't think that there's probably a lot of districts that are 100% satisfied with their data, but they also know that their students are coming off a very difficult couple of years. And I know, we pray that this year is going to be better, but the past couple of years, I mean,
Or
one year, it's been it's been tough for them. So we're trying to bring them back and get them, meet them where they are and move them forward.
You take the Jones, Onslow, Pender, and Dukin, they were out longer than most of these other high schools because of the flood. And, you know, back in 2018, then we had COVID right after that.
Yeah, our
And they lost like 3 or 4 years. If you look at the low performing, most of them, and Lenore, you know, all of them were out longer than what Craig went now as long as
That's right.
full car rest.
Yeah, I hear you say, don't call it low performing.
Well, they're saying that we don't want to call them a low performing school because the state's impact says that we had a lot of educators working very hard to try to meet students where they were and even grow them to where they were with these results. So they're saying the school is designated that based on a calculation of 80-20 that was built well before COVID, well before Florence was ever come about, even a thought to us. And they didn't change that calculation. So they know that 80% of every grade that you see is based on performance data and 20% is on growth. And they just are careful to say that we are aware that performance has probably gone down. Half the time the students were not even in a school building with a teacher.
Yeah.
And so they're looking, you know, at possibly trying to weigh growth more. Did we meet that student and did we grow that student even if they weren't proficient? And they want that weight to be a little bit stronger than 20% of our school performance grade, because we believe that we are growing kids and we are meeting them and we're working hard to get them there, and even if our results aren't showing that necessarily.
Do you agree with 80-20? Do you agree with 80-20?
I do not.
No,
But I work here, I don't for the state.
The big thing, I think, also, they didn't change it so they could kind of compare to see where we actually are in the learning curve, my understanding. Because they're trying to compare it from pre-COVID to see where we're at. And so that's why they went ahead. They were already expecting everything to be low across the state.
Right.
Well,
You know,
state
that was the
superintendent
whole
made
thing.
a good release, press release, as these were being published that day.
Well, it's kind of putting
You know,
everybody on notice and knowing
yeah.
where we need to pick up and what pieces we need to really concentrate on.
That's
And
right.
that's what we're gonna have to do.
That's right.
Yeah,
I agree.
It appears pretty definite that the 80-20 is gonna change.
I hope so.
Most educators, I think, would
Yes.
would want that
Well,
change.
it need to be 50-50.
I think it got to be something, a little more than 20.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna have to start back somewhere where it's more, balanced.
Right.
Love
I agree. I would love to see that.
And what was our graduation rate last year?
It was 89. I know not 89, I'm sorry. I'll get my glasses on. 85.1 last year.
Here it is.
Those dates are wrong on that PowerPoint, I just saw
Oh,
that.
okay.
It should be 2021 and 21-22.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Well, I was looking at.
So the last column, 85.1, that was last school year.
But that's based on when we started out 4 years ago, right?
Right,
And if we had
so-
kids leave with COVID or floods or whatever, that's,
So they start them out in ninth grade into a cohort, and it's a 4-year cohort graduation rate. So those students, and then they come and go with us. And so if they're with us, we have to prove where they went. Do we know their request for record? Do we know where they went? And if we don't, then they're gonna kind of guess us. If they're a dropout, if they leave to go to get a GED, anything like that would count against our graduation rate. So we did see a rise in that during COVID, students leaving. Anything else for me?
Mm.
Alright. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Going to item 5C, our budget report.
Good evening. In your packet, you should have had your budget report for the month of August and our expenditures. If you have any questions about it, I'm glad to answer them. If not, I also included our budget shortfalls that we're anticipating for this year. And our low will, which is PRC 019. I included a report for that. We had projected a budget shortfall of just over $200,000, or $280,000 in there. When it was all said and done with the increases of salaries to 4% and the increased benefits associated with that, our actual budget shortfall for 2019 will be $306,000.
How much?
$306,000. Our shortfall for transportation, we had originally budgeted or projected a shortfall of $207,000. With the increases, it looks like that's gonna be $302,000, because I had also projected the revenue, high by $94,000. So we had projected a shortfall of just over $488,000. And right now, we are anticipating a shortfall of $609,000. So when the county came and talked to me as a finance officer about us going to them in May and requesting additional funding, they said, we really can't wait for you to come in May when we've pretty much already established our budget. If you want additional funding, you need to let us know much earlier on in the budget process. So my suggestion to you would be that we monthly let them know how much we anticipate our shortfall being, and let them know that we're gonna need additional funds to close out the year. And at the very least, if they're not gonna give us anything this year, they're gonna have to give us something next year, because to cover this, you're gonna eat your entire fund balance.
Well, we know we ain't getting that. And what was that first budget shortfall? Because we don't have the transportation.
Did you give us that?
We don't have the transportation.
Oh, okay.
And that was the only one that was in the email too, the transportation. I
There
didn't
was
get that.
two tabs on it, but I'll copy this. The other one was 019, it's called their low wealth, or your rural wealth,
Yeah.
that's additional
Yeah, I
funds.
just didn't see that one.
We get $1.8 million, no matter what, it never goes up or down. The only expense that's charged here beyond salaries is a copier. So as your salaries are going up and your benefits are going up, you're able to charge less and less people here.
And what was that shortfall?
But our shortfall, the projection we had projected was 280, 187. And now with the increases in salaries, we have projected a 2.5% increase, and it actually was 4%. So the true shortfall in here is gonna be $306,536.
So you're talking about, is that only $25,000 more?
It's about 42,000.
Oh, well, I was trying to do the
Our
math.
projection was off by about 42,000 for that one. The transportation was higher because I had over projected the revenue.
Okay, oh, well, I thought you said it was like 281 and then 306.
Right, originally.
So the difference ain't but about 25,000.
Okay, that's 36,000. We had originally projected 280, and it's 306 for low wealth. And then on your transportation, we had projected 207, and it's 302.
Okay, for those two, you're saying it's like 42,000 total. No,
What'd you say?
97,000 on one and 36,000 on the other.
okay.
What'd you say you had projected for transportation? I got the 302, but what'd you say your projection was?
We had originally projected 207,920. Because I had projected a much higher revenue.
Got you.
So how do we go about monthly notification?
I feel like we should prepare a letter and send it to the county manager, the county clerk, and all 7 board members. That's what I would suggest. And I don't have a problem doing that if y'all want us to do it. I would also include the finance officer. And then they can't say they don't know.
I think it needs to be done.
And this is over and above what we had to allot through what we had on the agreement, correct?
Yes.
Did they give us any feedback as to why they were not receptive to us Because what the feedback that I'm getting from publicly and supposedly from some of the county commissioners, we're sitting on tons of money that we got for COVID. And that's what I'm hearing. That don't make that true. We're in Jones County. I understand that.
No, that is not true.
Part of them voted, was Charlie told me.
But I mean, are you hearing anything? Are y'all hearing anything?
So from a finance standpoint, I was told that we should use our COVID money to cover shortfalls. But COVID money for us is a lot of different than the county. We're not supposed to supplant. So I can't just say, all right, I'm gonna charge all these teachers over here because I have this money.
But that's about what I'm getting.
And we had also wrote a plan, and in that plan, we had added remediation specialists to address some of the learning loss. And those remediation specialists are going to eat up half of your COVID ESSER 3 funds over a 3-year span.
Oh, I believe what you're saying. I'm just saying what we catch from the wind.
Right, and I understand, and they do want us to take all our COVID money and pay for the shortfalls. But my challenge to them would be, what did you do with your ARPA money, which is their county funding? Sorry, I'm just being honest.
What the specialists required? Were we required to hire them?
No, but we hired them in anticipation of all the learning loss and hoping to address it. We were also told that we should spend all of our money down and that we could, all our fund balance before we came to them, and you will, this coming up year, you'll spend a huge bulk of it. There won't be any fund balance, I'm not just saying that, unless we get a lot of additional funding. And they should have said they might have been a lot more receptive had we went to them much earlier in the year. But that they were done with their budget by the time we talked to them.
Who quoted you on, who are you quoting?
Some staff from the county office.
Good answer.
But they're gonna be done until next budget, so we won't get any money from this budget, I'm pretty sure, without them.
I don't believe we will either,
Yeah.
but they can't, if we tell them every month, they can't say they don't know.
There you go.
So I think we take a proactive approach versus a reactive.
I agree.
Yes, ma'am.
And what's the contingency plan? If it's no this year and no next year, until the funding agreement is back to going to mediation.
If we don't go to them and if we don't pursue additional measures, get additional funding from them, then we have to make hard decisions. We're gonna have to cut positions, we're gonna have to cut things like that. Because your expenditures are not going down. Inflation's up. I don't know how anybody can expect us to live on less than we were living on in 2018. And then when the state tells you gotta pay everybody $15, I don't get a choice. And that's the other thing. They said, well, if the state wants you to pay them, then you need to get the state to give you the money. They don't pay all their employees $15, but we don't have a choice. It's the law.
The bad thing is we got 7 districts and nobody's running opposed hardly at all. So nobody feels threatened, so they ain't got to come up with any kind of money. I mean, as far as that, I'm just telling you like it is from what, we always got funded on an election year pretty well. And if we need it, but because of this funding agreement and because some of them think our ESSER funds are just like their ESSER funds, that's why they're not doing it.
And our ESSER funds are extremely different than their ESSer funds.
Yeah,
They have control of them, and we do not have full control of ours. DPI tells us what we can and cannot spend on.
So, and some of them on the board thinks that we can take capital money and turn it into salary money. And that's totally, and some of them used to sit on this board. And they didn't understand it.
But I will prepare a letter and we can share it, I can share it with Dr. Deacon, share it with you before we send it. But we'll just stick to the basic information, let them know that we are anticipating these shortfalls.
Well, wouldn't we have to cut positions now in anticipation too? Like, so we don't overspend coming into the,
I think that's a decision you have to make closer to the end of the year. You do have about $500,000 in fund balance. So if you were to get additional transportation money or additional funding in another PRC that we could relocate some of these people to, I think you have a little bit of time before you have to make decisions like that. And I think you can make it close to throughout this year, but you would definitely have to address it next year.
Based on your differences in what you expected and what you actually got right now, how much fund balance will we have at the end of the year? Based on out of the 500,000, it'll be all gone.
We need 609 as we speak today. We only have 5. So we're still $100,000 in the hole. But you told us this last year.
We started talking about this in February.
And you told us also when those extra money, we're gonna have to make those tough decisions or get some more money.
So you might want to send them notice every 2 weeks. Instead of every month.
I don't feel like we told them to.
I'm just messing. I'm just.
Coming from the county.
We didn't tell them, we could have told them 5 months earlier. If they would have said no.
But I think you have to eliminate excuses.
I think-
for people.
I agree with that.
In my opinion,
They're just fearful that, I mean, they can still sit on their hands and not do nothing. So what do we do as a board?
in my opinion, we probably need to, maybe the chairman and maybe the finance officer need to go to one of their meetings and let her present that we're gonna be behind every time and be on the public, so the public would know and get behind them and ask them to help us out, because we're gonna be in the hole.
We did
You're gonna
that.
play politics, it's gonna take politics to get the money.
We told them exactly that.
But you didn't do it at a meeting.
What if
But
you-
I'm talking about in a public meeting, I'm talking about go to one of their
Your public
aired meetings.
It was a public
It was
meeting.
a public meeting.
was,
It may have been special call, but it was public.
It was. And then you tell them that they're number 100 in funding. I mean, that's last place.
But it wasn't on their, it wasn't on Facebook, it wasn't on
No,
their
it wasn't.
Facebook Live thing.
no, it was not.
You need to do it on Facebook Live, that's
It
where
might
they need
be
to see it.
public, but it won't
Broadcast.
broadcast. That's the difference.
Every time they want us to meet, they don't matter who it is, it's always on the workshop meeting, because they don't air that.
I will point out again, they have, I don't know about this year, I can look it up, but for the last 6 years, they cut their tax rate
But we talked
and
about that.
increased their expenditures, and their fund balance has grown. So they are not in a financial bind, and there's no reason why they could not have given you more money.
Yeah, if you saw, Timmy Pike said they had $100,000 line item or something the other day on their thing that they could spend it on. I don't remember what it was, but they had written a line that was undesignated or whatever, or something for EMS. I mean, they got different pots of money that's just sitting there.
If you don't have any more questions, I will be back in a few minutes.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you.
Moving into item 5D, the facilities report.
Well, a lot's changed since last meeting, but I will elaborate on a few things. We're in the process of accepting bids for 220-ton units on top of the gym. We finally expect that bid is due this month. I've set a day, the scope of work for anybody who wants to attend that meeting is this Friday, 16th at the gym. And also in that, to get the scope of work in RFP and the request to bid, I've also made myself available to anyone that needs to and cannot make those meetings to make arrangements with me. And I'll personally take them over there and show them so they have an opportunity to bid on that job. The things that are coming up, we've been working on this past month, is we're trying to upgrade the two-way radio system at the schools, to put in a better system that involves repeaters, and we're trying to do that through grant money, working with Mobile Communications America so that we can get some radio signals in this area here that are dependable and we can make this work. And it's a system that we can actually expand on. They have capabilities to add on to that system down the road. They actually have technology that can recognize objects through a camera. And then when it recognizes an object like a firearm or a knife in the parking lot, when somebody gets out, it automatically contacts a group on the radio that says, hey, we got this going on in the parking lot, we need you to address this at this point in time. So that's the kind of technology we're looking at moving forward into. But again, that's gonna be done through grant money, and we've applied for that, so we'll see where that takes us. We also have a storage building at high school. We plan on putting in a 30 by 50, 12-foot ceilings, 2 roll-up doors, a walk-in door, to meet the wind zone requirements, and we're accepting quotes on those at this point in time. So I've got 2 of the 3 quotes we need, but I've also advertised out on the website as well to anyone, and that will close to the end of this month as well. Everything over the football, baseball fields is pretty much on the way to being completed. We actually met the last person I needed an estimate from on the fence, and we were talking about putting up over there. And at a couple of board members' request, I've also got prices on corralling the electrical control panels, so no one has access to that area to turn the lights on and off. That would have a key to get in to the gates to get into that area. So there'll be one installed at the football field, the old ball fields, and the new ball fields as well. Moving forward then after, and we waited to this point in time because the ADA ramp that we were installing over at the football field to get the trucks and equipment in. I couldn't put the fixed fence up until I got all that completed. The rest of it's pretty much completed at this time. Moving forward with that, we also have grant money to relight the football fields over there. Once football season's there, we'll start accepting bids to change that over to LED lighting and bring it up to standards that are required that we don't meet at this point in time for high school. So there's a lot of things going on in the background that we're working on at this point in time. And a lot of that's being done through grant money. Some of it's being done through capital money. As we said, capital money, the remainder of the money left over from the schools being flooded out was designated and had to use as capital funding. There's about $30,000 left in that that's left over we're using to finish those fields up over this time. So a lot of the money we're using is designated on the year mark or either it's grant money or so maybe that'll make you feel a little better about us spending money. Seems to be frivolously, but anyway, any questions on any of that?
You have an ETA on the AC unit. Reason I'm asking, I've had multiple parents eating me up about that AC
Well,
unit.
let me explain what happened. There's a total of 5 units on top of that gym over there. I had one of my custodians come to me last week and said, it seems to be, normally it's warm in there, but it seems to be extra hot. So I went over and checked it. 2 of those 5 units were down. So that's where the problem comes with HVAC. Unfortunately, I don't do preventive maintenance. I wish I did. I wish I had the staff to do that, but I don't. If I don't get a work request, I don't normally make it a point to go look at it. But Mr. Griffin had called me the week before about it, and my custodian come to me the next day. So I went over last week to check this out. 2 of those units were down. One required a circuit board that had gotten possibly a lightning strike. The other was actually just a short wire running to a control system. Out. So 2 of those units were just back up and running this past Friday. I ordered the parts and they come in last Monday and we got them installed. Got those back up and running. So part of that problem was not necessarily those units. When you got 2 out of 5 units down, it's a big impact. And like I said, if I had opportunity to do preventive maintenance, I could catch a lot of that stuff, but that's just not the case. I just don't have that kind of staff to do that. With the other 3 schools that we're involved in as well that require my attention, and Lord knows the high school requires my attention all the time. That's another beast. Anyway, that's where we are at. But to answer your question on the completion of that, Contractors I spoke with, that I met out there so far, say 30 to 60 days, depending on equipment.
Well, how many units are up and running now out of the 5?
There's 4.5.
4.5?
Yeah.
But they're not working, that half is causing that gym to be hot when there's a group in there, or what? I'm just asking.
I've gone by, since I put those units back online, I've gone by and checked that gym, and it's maintaining temperature at 70, 72 degrees, 70 degrees, 68
That's
degrees.
good.
Depending on what it's setting with the days we've had. But to do that, I mean, every one of those things has to be on, even when that gym was new, this kind of heat, it struggled to maintain that kind of temperature. And I think Ms. Peacock can attest to that.
Yes, sir.
Because it's not, it's a metal building, and it's got metal building insulation. Those other two, the two 20-ton units, there's one that's fully operable, and there's one that's half operable because part of the circuit's out on it. But even with that being said, as long as you don't have a heat load in that gym of over 400 or 500 people, they will maintain like they are. But the secret is you can't prop the doors open during the day because we want to go outside.
We'll move the thermostat back and
You
forth.
can't put one on heat and one on cool because I was cold this morning, it's hot next day. We used to have things in place that no one could touch those thermostats for maintenance. But that's not the case anymore. I don't know how many times I can go in that gym and there's a thermostat on both ends of the gymnasium. One will be set to heat, one will be set to cool. And they'll sit there and fight each other.
Well, can we put covers back on?
I've put covers on and ripped them off the walls.
Well, we need to get a camera in there, find out who's doing that, we can rip them something.
So with the circuit board and everything you did change to get 4.5 up, is it manageable now? I mean, should I not be getting these phone calls? Is everything good?
Everything's good as of last Friday.
Okay.
Have you got any sense of it?
Have not.
No, I think it all happened last week, the first of last week or the week before.
There was a reason for it last week. When you got two 10-ton units down, that's a lot of equipment.
So
I agree.
Yeah, you got it back up, say Friday, Thursday, or Friday.
Thursday's when I got it back up running because I had to put the parts and had to come in for it.
So what are we replacing with the bid?
What's the bid replacing?
What are we replacing that?
The 20-ton units, is that what you're?
20-ton units are being replaced.
Or we're gonna have to replace the other, whatever they are, 3-ton, 10-ton units, or whatever they are.
I would say your lifespan on those is probably still good another 10 years on those units. When you start getting into a 20-ton unit, to kind of give you an idea, those kind of units, they don't even warranty those like another unit because they're really pushing the max to get 20 tons out of an AC unit. I mean, you don't get the warranties on those because they won't last. But, and we've had problems with those carrier units up there since the day I started. I mean, there's always been an issue with those two 20-ton units.
Will 2 10-ton units do what a 20-ton unit would do?
Probably do better.
Why don't we replace them with 4 10s?
Because the design of the building requires rooftop units. It's engineered for that. I had looked at putting the city multi-system in, which they've done, if you're not familiar with that. It's what they installed at the courthouse down here, but to do that, at that particular school, I've got to increase the service size. Because they put gas packs in, we don't have a 400 amp service going in that building. So if we do that, then we're gonna have to increase the service size on that building to go totally electric. We can't go that route, so that's why we're concentrating on. But what I have expected on these new units are training units, which we've had a lot more success with in the past.
Well, are we on natural gas at Unity Schools?
We are, the gymnasium over there is natural.
It is
gas.
natural gas.
So what you have is a gas pack, you have a gas heat, and then you have electrical for air conditioning. So that's the reason we could get by with those 20-ton gas packs with a 400 amp service. And then again, we're back to ESSER funds on this. That's what's part of that designation for ESSER funds. Now, believe it or not, a lot of it for HVAC replacement, that might be corrected. I think it was 587,000.
547.
47,000. And so far, the bids are running somewhere on these two replacements around 120.
So you're gonna be 300,000 under or 200,000 under what you
Well, we
expect?
have a.
I'm gonna get you a
project
calculator,
we're
man.
working on as well. Maysville has some issues as well because we actually got a, the last boiler system we had is over there, and with fuel costs that brought it on today, and that requiring about 10,000 gallons of fuel here to operate. I would like to get that changed out, and that will allow me to put in the city multi-system over there, which is very efficient. And I've already checked, we got power to do that over there from what I've worked with engineers on so far with this issues. We can do that there, and that's gonna be an additional cost out of that same fund. And then we're gonna finish up at Comfort with what we got left to replace out there at 6 at a time out. Because we got units out there as well, we still have 5 units out there that were put in when the building was built, that hasn't been replaced yet, so those are still operating. But, it's just a matter of time before they start dropping out because they already have.
Your extra funding that was budgeted for this has to be tied to improving ventilation and air purity.
About
That
500.
being said, we're installing UV lights.
About 5.
In the old unit,
Yes, ma'am, that was part of the upgrade, so we could use this funding for that. Is a UV light would be installed in the airflow ducts. So that it would comply with the requirement of air quality.
So we budgeted for 554,
$547,000 budget for air.
and we feel like we're gonna come in around the 150.
That's just for that particular project. We're gonna use it as a fund money because it's designated, it's earmarked, it can't be used for anything else.
I got you.
We're gonna use it until it's gone. But I also.
Don't go over.
I also have $180,000 that's set aside from the county in HVAC replacement as well. And we've always used that for repair replacement money because we allow that to roll out.
When you think you have a lightning strike, you can't, our deductible's so high on the insurance, that you can't do any kind of insurance type stuff on that.
And normally what lightning gets is a circuit board or something like that. Those particular units, that one over here that failed was actually a failure on the condensing coil. It was a blowout and it cost so much to replace the condensing coil. The unit is not worth it. Is the problem because you're dealing with natural gas, which is a corrosive gas to start with. So your lifespan on your fireboxes are close to being over. So we can go in and spend $10,000 to replace that circuit, and then another 15 to replace the compressor. And then the firebox is probably gonna go out in another 5 years, so it's just not.
Natural gas, I thought there was hardly any, I thought they burned so clean, there's hardly any.
Propane. Natural gas is a corrosive gas.
Natural gas is corrosive.
In reference to your question about lightning strikes, I haven't attempted to file anything on the insurance because I didn't know there had been any lightning strikes.
Well, that was,
Yeah, that's
the
what
light,
we just did.
I'm guessing this last,
Lightning strike.
they got a $200 circuit board. Is a lightning strike because nothing else would do it. And it happened during that time we were having all this thunderstorm. But you're not, our deductible was set at 5,000 now.
I'd have to go look.
It may be up to 10,000.
That's definitely not 10,000.
No, yeah.
No, I just wondered, I didn't know
Why not? Fine.
what a unit like that would cost and what the deductible was. I mean, you get them to replace the whole unit and keep it, and put the $200 board on it.
Yes.
Anybody else have any questions about anything?
I don't.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Into item 5E, the superintendent update and comments.
I wanted to highlight a couple of things for you. First of all, opening the school went smoothly. Our principals have done a great job with that. As you know, position-wise, we got everything pretty much feels that Mr. Markey and the principals have worked together to make sure that happens, and we're in good shape compared to surrounding districts, and thankful for that. Thankful that we get people in here and they want to come and work with us. I wanted to mention to you some school safety updates and efforts we've made with that, as well as mention a couple of things to you about the testing. We met in March and had someone come out and do an assessment of our campuses and noted any problems, any improvements that we needed to make. Tim was involved, our principals, everybody was involved, and they met with each principal individually to go over any safety issues that we might have. And we took all that information, sat down with Tim, and we've got a 3-year plan where we're going through and addressing anything that we've got safety-wise. Of course, SROs are the most important part of that, and they play a big role, and so we're glad to have them. But anyhow, we've got an action plan, we've got protocols and equipment, we've got Raptor system, which you heard mentioned in Onslow County with their recent situation. We've got new camera systems. We're asking our employees to wear badges that you see, and so there's been a lot of things taking place that you may not have been aware of with school safety, and so I just wanted to make you aware of that. So if you were to get approached about that by parents, you'd be able to answer that. I wanted to talk a little bit about our testing data. And if you go back and look at the statewide test data, if you look at grade 3, you can take that for example, you'll see the blue is where they were pre-COVID. Statewide, the second red bar is where they were, the first year of COVID, and the green bar is where they were last year. And you can see statewide that the data, no one has recovered. As far as a state average, nobody has recovered yet from where they were pre-COVID. And the same is true if you look at mass scores statewide. There, you see where they were pre-COVID and where they were post-COVID. Nobody has recovered from where they were. If you take our data and lay it out, it looks just like that, just like it does statewide. We've not recovered where we were. Now, some predictions said it would take 3 to 5 years to recover. I don't think it's going to take that long. It looks like within a year or so, we're going to be back where we were, but it will take some time. If you look at statewide high school performance, you see very similar pattern pre-COVID. So there's a testing data link that I'll send to you that'll allow you to pull up any school and make any kind of comparisons you may want to make in the future, but I will send that to you this Friday when I send that. So I just want to let you know that, our teachers have made tremendous efforts to do the very best they can given the situation they were in. We're not making any excuses. We're at where we're at, and we're going to get better and improve where we are. We've got systems in place to improve our instructions. We review data regularly with our principals, and they, go back to their staffs with that. There are things that we're going to have to do because of us being a low performing district. Those things, Mr. Markey and I will sit down with the principals this week and go through some of that. Some of that will be determined on the 28th when all the superintendents will have a meeting with DPI. And then we also have a regional representative, Ms. Beth Metcalf, is coming to meet with us on the 26th. And so anyhow, there's a lot being said about the growth versus proficiency argument, and you can debate that all you want to, but in the situations, there's no doubt that the growth bar is a lower bar than the proficiency bar. We're going to talk to our principals about focusing on proficiency, and improving that. If we've got 70% proficient, we want to move to 75% proficiency, because if you take care of that percentage increase, most likely you're gonna take care of the growth. Not in all situations. There's been one instance I've had as a principal where it called it, but 9 times out of 10, you're fine. So I just wanted to assure you that, you know, we have things in place. We're gonna take care of that, and we're on top of what the state is gonna require of us. We're not, you know, the final plans to the state are not due until like December the 9th, but really in about the next 2 weeks, we'll have our stuff in place with our principals of what we're gonna do. And so they've been exposed to this, you know, focus on X to Y, the 4 disciplines of execution. We're going to continue with that model to help them have some scoreboards in place in our school. So that's where we're at with that. Any questions that y'all have of me with any of this? Okay. I want to, let's see, you have a handout in your packet that outlines the number of nurse interventions, the number of social worker interventions that occurred last year. And it, you know, talks about social workers and their weekly sessions with students. There were 1,536 nurse referrals for our students last year. And so those people are being used in a great deal. They contribute greatly to what we do. You see the number of counselor referrals as well. So there is a great need in not only the academic, if you want your academic efforts to improve, you have to take care of the social emotional aspects of this as well. And so we're doing that. So I want to make you aware of that. And our principals will bring their school improvement goals to you in our October meeting. And we have a request to meet with the county commissioners next Monday night at 7 o'clock to discuss SROs and RWE. And I wanted to confirm with Kyle Smith, we are in favor. You want me to confirm that with him for next Monday night at 7 o'clock. All right. Thank you very much.
Next Monday at 7.
Yes, sir.
I'm not sure if I'm gonna be available or not.
Yeah, I knew I wasn't going to be.
How about the rest of the board?
I don't want to go if you ain't going, Bill.
Huh?
I don't want to go if you ain't going.
Do what now?
I said, I don't want to go if you ain't going. It'll be no fun. Yeah, I can go. I'm just messing with you.
What we meeting at?
Ag building, I believe.
I was unable to attend that one. So. Okay.
Well, who did he say when I asked Charlie, he didn't know anything about it. Who was requesting it besides Kyle? He said the county commissioners are requesting it.
All I know is Kyle called me and asked, would we meet with them Monday at 7? And I sent the information out to you all, and I think 4 of you confirmed that you could.
Yeah.
Come.
Okay. So that has been confirmed, and we are meeting.
I was waiting till tonight to get from you, but I will confirm to him by text when I leave here.
Okay. All right, well then we'll move into our action item 6A, out-of-state school field trip request.
We have a field trip request from the FFA to attend the conference that they attend in Indianapolis. They're using a charter bus, and they've got information there provided to you. They're going to provide for, cost for the students and all that. And it's a typical field trip request that I believe they make on a yearly basis too.
And y'all have no concerns with this field trip?
I've looked through it.
Okay. You just need our approval.
Yes, sir.
I have a motion.
So move.
Second.
Motion, Mr. Brown, second by Mr. Griffin. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, say nay. That motion carries.
What always triggered with me is our bus guy has to go and look at that charter bus before it leaves, even though Lenore may be there. Because I wouldn't our athletic.
Are they riding to the north?
According to this.
I didn't remember if I saw that or not.
6B, budget amendment number 2.
Okay, we have a budget amendment. It's for Fund 1, 2, and 8. Fund 1 is your state funding. We received additional funding to cover the 4% increase and the additional benefits that go with that. We also received our funding for our bonus, that's considered our low wealth bonus that will go to our teachers. It was close to $600,000 by itself. Fund 2, that was additional funding to cover the increase in benefits tied to the retirement rate. The retirement rate was more than they had anticipated. And it also was to cover increased internet costs. In Fund 8, we received a grant from DHHS for our COVID testing and tracing for $170,000. And then we had to budget $55,000 worth of fund balance to cover the pre-K program. So that's what this budget amendment entails.
How much of the fund balance? One.
And Fund 8 was $55,000.
What was that for?
In Fund 8,
Yeah,
to cover pre-K costs.
gotcha.
Do we normally cover all pre-K costs?
It is normally fully funded through your,
More for stuff?
yes, but we're on the last year of the agreement, so I'm sure next year the allocation we'll receive will be going up. A lot of your teachers that teach pre-K are your most experienced teachers, and with all the increases are costing us a lot of money, so that's why we're running the red this year on pre-K. Normally that is not the case.
And we can't ask them for money.
And it's a 3-year agreement, this is the last year of the agreement.
I'll make a motion to, that's the budget, amendment, whatever it is.
Motion by Mr. Griffin,
I see.
second by Ms. Fee. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. Motion carries on the budget amendment. You have 6C as well.
Indeed.
Well, not really, but yes.
Okay.
So 6C is for Venture, Supreme Choice Healthcare. This is for our CNAs that are staged out at the schools that are assisting with the COVID response and helping get them taking temperature and get the kids in school. This is what the DHHS grant is paying for, so this is actually coming from Fund 8 and is funded by the state. She has a contract with them to provide the CNA. We also have a waiver from the state approving that we do not have to bid this contract out because there was nobody else willing to bid. It's kind of like a sole source situation because there's such a shortage of them. So we do have that waiver approved by the state of North Carolina. We're asking for your approval because it's over $50,000.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Griffin,
Second.
second by Mr. Brown. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. Motion carries. And you have the Venture Rehab Group.
Yes, Venture Rehab provides occupational therapy to our students. We received a couple of bids on this one. We're asking for your approval because it is over $50,000.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Griffin,
I'll second that.
second by Mr. Walston. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 5-0.
And Sunday.
Do you have the speech therapy service?
Yes.
Okay.
So Sunbelt provides speech therapy to our students. We did, advertise for a speech pathologist. We've not had any luck in hiring one. So we have to contract the services out to provide them to students. We also have a couple of bids on this one. The contract is for $81,700. This is over $50,000. It requires an approval.
So moved.
Motion, Mr. Griffin,
I'll second that.
second from Mr. Walston. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you, y'all.
Thank you,
Thank
Melissa.
Hopefully I'll be quiet.
You good. You done good.
All right, moving to item 7A, the board member comments. I never go first, so I'll try it this time. No, it's good to hear about the first days of school getting started. I haven't heard of anything bad, so that's a good thing for all the administrators, principals alike. I come into the board meetings and I hear some alarming things, especially with like our grades, that bothers me as a parent. If those grades came into my house, I'm changing something, and I know y'all are working towards that. So, then with the finances, I hear stuff like that and it bothers me. But when I see groups like the FFA come in here and give their presentation, I know we're in the right direction. So, I'm super proud when I see those kind of groups come in and discuss with us what they've been doing. I know what we're doing is right. So, Mr. Griffin?
The grades bother me, somewhat, but I understand why they're like that. I mean, I know there's something that we really don't really have a lot of control of, because one, the state sets how they want to do it and not how it probably needs to be done. And so I understand it. And I know there's other schools that's got it, but I mean, us being small, us being real rural, most parents are working out of county if they got a job, so it's a little bit different situation than the ones that live in the bigger towns that's got industries and stuff like that, where our people are going. But it bothers me about our funding agreement and how we're going to get through this, this other stuff. And the only way I know that we're going to be able to get any money is to play politics and put pressure on publicly. And that's going to have to be, it's going to be done where the public can see it. Because I don't think 7 individuals will give you a nickel until we spend every nickel we got.
I agree.
I've dealt in this situation forever. I've been on the opposing side of Melissa with the first funding agreement, and we had to ask the attorneys out of the room, and we got the funding agreement, and the county actually gave us more money than what my board told me to agree with. Which worked. The attorneys didn't really have anything to do with it. That was the suggestion of the county chairman, and I was chair on this side. So we're going to play politics in order to try to get any money, and they're going to have to understand that we're actually we're not doing our fund balance. They feel like that our fund balance is coming from Jones County taxpayers and not having how we do it. And, for the most part, so it just all that bothers me. But I know that we're better and we're going to get through it.
Okay. Mr. Brown? No comment? Mr. Walston?
I'm like what I'm hearing from staff. They know that we're in a hole, and it sounds like they're trying to make provisions. I understand everybody is suffering, but I'm just glad to hear that we understand we might have to dig a little deeper. We got a lot of things affecting us here. Billy just commented on it that other places don't have to worry about. But I'm just glad to know that we've got some kind of plan, and I appreciate the effort. Thank y'all.
Ms. Ham?
Yeah, we're always gonna be concerned about our grades and of course our economic situations. But there's not a doubt in my mind that the staff and this administration, they did everything within their possibility to get us where we were. It would have been tough being a teacher during that time. There were so many things that they had to adjust to. And then Billy saying, you know, parents are working out of county, even with your one-parent homes, mom and dad, or mom, whichever, they're working. They weren't there to help these kids go online. And, you know, everybody doesn't learn the same way. You know, you got your CTE kids, a lot of them excel because it's hands-on. They may or may not do as well in the classroom with your math and your academic, high academic. So I'm, you know, we want improvement. I know we're going to make improvement and make strides, but I also want to commend our staff for just holding the line, just keeping us exactly where we are, and we want better. But you know, they work hard, and I got some of that. You know, the state superintendent said the same thing. These people have worked hard to get what we did get. So thank you, all of you.
I want to make one more comment, and this is kind of directed to Bryce and the principals and Dr. Thicke. I think everybody needs to compliment them for being able to fulfill that's 100%, because they won't, but about 8 across the state that had a full roster. And part of them have lost part of it. We've lost it, but we're still able to regain it. And that says a whole lot for our administration to be able to fill a spot as soon as we got somebody in line with a spot potentially opening tomorrow. I mean, it's just, you know, it's just really, I mean, everything is just working well. I mean, as far as staff-wise, that needs to be I think they need to be complimented on being able to fill a spot with good people.
I agree to that.
Huh?
I agree to that.
Because I know I still sit with some around the state, was with them Friday, and there's people all around the state, nobody here. I mean, they're missing 20, 30, 40, 50 positions.
No.
And that's huge.
Just look at Craig County.
All right. Mr. Shaw, do you have any comments? Okay. Being no further business of the board, this concludes our September 12th regular board meeting. Our next board meeting will be October the 3rd at this office at 5 p.m. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Mr. Griffin,
I'll second.
Ms. Fee, all second. All in favor say aye. All opposed say nay. Motion carries 5-0. Meeting adjourned.
Candace, we got some closed session